Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start getting voting because we're late. Please, everybody. Assume position. I'll call the meeting to order at 4:08 p.m. January 6th, 2020. Everybody had a happy new year?
Yes.
Happy holidays, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Festivus. So roll call.
Gary?
Here.
Blunt?
Here.
Foster? Here. Campos? Chestnut?
Here.
Cohen? Goodison? Here. Henry? Hildreth?
Here.
Tattersall?
Here.
Waller? Here.
Okay. Now we have adoption of the agenda.
Move adoption of the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Next is approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so the first item under business discussion items is 1906663, Work Plan Article 5. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was regarding 5.07, is that correct, Marie, regarding the equal opportunity duties of charter officers? I know that somebody, Susan, do you remember, was it Jorge that wanted to wait till more people were here to talk about it? So I thought we were done with 5.
We were done with
Well,
law, so.
I don't recall whether we took a vote affirmative to rescind 506.
Yeah, we did.
That's all I
Okay, does anybody else have anything on section 5? Because I certainly don't, and again, I don't.
Yeah, according to the minutes and then the chart that was in our backup, the work plan status, there were a couple things in 5 that were going to GRU for staff analysis. There were 2 things. And so I guess that's what we're waiting for. So I was, I'm not sure why that was on there. But
Yeah,
I think we're waiting, and so that might be a subsequent meeting.
Okay. Well, if nobody has anything other than Article 5?
Okay, so according to the minutes, it says 5.07, member campus motion
Right.
to table the item until the next meeting to allow additional members to comment. And then 5.09, member Berry commented, member Boucher commented about the wording of section 5, and then there was no action. So,
Does anybody have anything on 5.07? I certainly don't.
But there was no problem with equal opportunity.
no,
No, I don't, that's why I'm saying,
Yeah,
I can't
I don't
remember
know.
why he wanted it, and he
we're
can't
waiting
be
for
here.
staff analysis on 2 things
On
in section
GRU.
5, and that was, according to this, there's 2 things.
Right, but
that are-
in the minutes, he talked about wanting more people to be able to participate in the conversation, so. Well,
And he's not here to help us out.
Can I raise a question here? I'm not aware of anything being forwarded to GRU for analysis.
That's why it's still here.
well, we'll get to that on the
We need a motion.
so.
We'll let you know.
Well, I think that'll come when we discuss the actual work plan. Okay, so then we will just move along. Next is 1906761, Work Plan Article 6. And again, anybody has anything?
Pretty straightforward administrative stuff.
Correct. Everybody good with that? Okay. Then we'll move on to 1900792, ranked choice voting. We have a presentation by Ms. James Chalmers and her.
Oh, here, go, okay.
Get 3 minutes.
Okay.
No.
John, you're good.
However known.
Okay, I've got some slides that were put together when Adam Friedman came down from Massachusetts. He was involved in Maine statewide ranked choice voting, and he's been organizing Massachusetts and they're almost ready to go, that state ranked choice voting. And I understand Illinois is coming along now too, but I wanted to give him credit because this is based on his performance. We have John Severini with us today. He's chair of Rank My Vote Florida, and he came up from Sarasota for this presentation, so thank you, John. And I generally have a pretty loud voice, but if you
This
need
is
to
so that the
record it
recording
here-
picks it up.
What?
This is because we're recording it, so it's picked up by
Yeah,
the recording.
I understand, yeah.
Lots of
Good.
interest in this.
Thank you. Let's go on to the next, because I want to rush through this, because I know you have a busy schedule. We don't like plurality voting. That's the way we end up with a candidate that is not supported by 50% of the people. And as a former office holder, I would not like to represent a population where less than 50% approved of me up there making decisions for them. And this is why ranked choice voting is so important. And this is why so many cities and communities are going for it. Our work is based on research. We've got a lot of universities examining this. There are lots of benefits. We do have the data if you want to go deeply into what our research is indicating. Plurality voting is when there are more than 2 candidates in a race, and the one that receives the most votes, but not a majority, is considered the winner, or it requires a subsequent runoff race between the top 2 vote getters. Runoff races cost in Alachua County 89% of the cost of a first race, and the drop-off is phenomenal. So this is sometimes called the instant runoff. More about that later. Limited voter choice. It's up or down. You don't have, the voter doesn't have a chance of giving an opinion of what their second choice would be, and that's important here. There's a lot of vote splitting, there's a lot of strategic voting, but worst of all, there's no majority winner. See the little graph, 44% of the votes, and the person's a winner. Whereas you look at the others, 56%, who knows? They might have combined, and then we would have someone that had the majority. Here's a good illustration. No one quite knows how many people really supported Nader, because thoughtful voters said, well, I'll throw my vote away if I vote for him. So we don't know what their second choice would have been, Gore or Bush. We'll never know. But this gives you kind of a good feeling. You know, Nader comes up with 1.64. Look at the difference. 537 votes in Florida, and we all sweated through that one, didn't we?
And we're still sweating.
And we're still sweating.
So, Jean, can I add that?
Sure, yeah.
The exit polls, and I think everybody in this room knows that, majority of Nader voters would have gone to Gore had they had a second choice. The more important number is how many more people might have voted for Nader if they knew that they could pick a second candidate. So it stifles third parties from running, and it could, a third party could change the results.
Yeah. It's not fair to the Green Party, and it's not fair to the Tea Party, because we somehow have to get people to be able to vote and express how they feel about all of these third parties. Our current system just forces you into the Republican Party or the Democratic Party.
And we really want to make this point. This is not partisan. This doesn't benefit either party. This benefits the voter, and in this case, you, the city, because you're going to save money on a second election, and you're going to get a higher percentage of voters participating. Because statistics show that runoff elections only get half the amount of participation as the first. So if you can decide the whole thing up front in one election, twice the participation and half the cost.
Okay, on to the next. So we use the term spoiler. So we've just given you an idea of what the spoiler is. In this case, Nader was the spoiler. He has no idea how many people would have supported him if they'd had a first and second choice. So he's got the bad reputation. I know, I've heard so many people say, oh, you voted for Nader. Well, you just threw your vote away. You voted for Jill Stein. Well, you just threw your vote away. Ranked choice voting stops that. Look at this election. Carroll, a millionaire from Texas. Clinton, a lawyer from Arkansas. Bush, a millionaire from Texas. Where do you think that would have ended up if someone had a second choice?
And this illustrates the nonpartisan nature of this. Right? And the other one, probably a Democrat might have been the beneficiary of Nader's voters. In this case, certainly Bush, and that's Bush Sr., would have been the beneficiary of Perot's supporters. Yeah,
This is a funny one. This guy, I think, did he end up in jail? I mean, he was
convicted.
He was convicted. So there was a recall election. And in this city election, there was the recall and then the election for the new candidate that would be mayor. So look at what happened. 61% voted for a recall for the crook. 39% re-elected him for the position. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see why.
So Fall River is a small blue-collar town in Massachusetts. And the incumbent was the mayor was convicted of mail fraud. And the citizens decided to see if they wanted to recall him.
So look at the top, the bottom two. Scott Paccio and Riley. Those would have been thrown out in ranked choice voting, and their percentage, I bet you, would have gone to Kogan or to Camera. But as it is, because they were all spread out, no one had a second choice, no one needed a runoff, because it was winner take all on plurality, the crook got reelected. I just think this is a fun example of a system that is really not working.
And this happened on the same day he was recalled. The recall and the re-election happened simultaneously. So he was recalled as mayor and put back in office.
Big question. I noticed that all the other guys are white, and he seems not to be. Are there racial politics involved in?
I don't think so. I didn't hear any of that.
Is it any more likely?
Yeah, well, actually, statistically, it helps minority races, ranked choice voting, because many times a minority is not one of the front runners. And so statistically, we find that minority voters do turn out better, and minority candidates should have better results.
There's some research going on now because we believe that people will vote for their favorite, their neighbor, whoever, and then at the second level, they'll vote for a minority person or a woman just to show that they're really in favor of America. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Well, we all know what happened here, and we all know that there were organized candidates trying to defeat Donald Trump. But in the primary, we know what happened. With less than a majority, he won the primary.
The same concept, right? Vote splitting. He kept winning those early primaries with 25, 30% support. And 70% of the population did not pick him. But no one candidate was able to beat him in those primaries. So, and play it forward. Oh, here's.
Yeah, we left that out because the Democratic platform now, we had a picture of 20, we're down to 15. Who knows where? I'll come back in a couple of months and show you the slide.
Yeah, I went back just because, again, nonpartisan, right? Democratic Party is facing this exact same thing right now.
Yep.
And you only have one choice. So it.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah. So it fails to guarantee a majority winner. This is what really bothers me. And it fails to eliminate that spoiler effect. It discouraged candidates from running. I would hate to be running for office now. And it limits the choice in the voting booth.
So going back to primaries, 5 states this year will use ranked choice voting in the Democratic primary, presidential primary. So I think we're going to show you later on where it's currently being used.
So, as you gather now, you don't pick just one candidate, you rank them in the order that you prefer them. If you only want to vote for one, fine, just vote for one. Two, fine. If there are 5 on the ballot, you can vote for all 5. At least you can give your opinion. So the parties understand, the candidates understand, and the community understands of who is favored and what issues are really favored.
And we're going to show you some statistics later on. One of the objections to ranked choice voting is it's confusing for the voters. It's hard enough to get them to pick one. Now you're going to ask them to pick the first, second, and third choice. We're going to show you some research that disputes that. Currently being used in 20 cities across the nation, so we have some good research there.
The League of Women Voters supported it in Maine very strongly, and in their campaign to support ranked choice voting, they had this sample ballot. So this is what a voter would see going into the booth. 3 people are running for office, just fill in the circle. First choice, second choice, third choice. A lot of the local leagues in Florida have really liked ranked choice voting. The statewide league has not yet endorsed it because they've got to get all the little separate leagues to approve it. Oh, as you know, Crystal, it ain't easy, but I think they're going to end up endorsing us, don't you? Oh yeah, I think we're feeling good about it. Okay, this just reiterates what I've already said, that you've got to have more than 50% if they're making decisions for you. The majority of the citizens sure should have chosen you. We can't show this YouTube, it's just wonderful. But if you want to go on your own computer, do ranked choice voting, the YouTube one, it really is very graphic. But because we're on a network here, I don't think GRU wants us to do fancy stuff on their network. So, but essentially, this is what it says. Round 1 voting, well, someone has 55%. So the golden girl wins right off. Don't have to have a runoff. Easy.
This is a second election. Just the same parties are running. But again, in this first round,
the golden girl only has 40%. Oh dear, there's no majority. So I guess we have to run the algorithm on our voting machines once more. And our voting machines can do this. So let's go on and see what happens.
Obviously, in a plurality system, with this result, candidate, the golden girl, 40% support is the winner, right? Now, with ranked choice voting...
You see?
Oh, that's out of order, Gina, I'm sorry.
Is
so
it?
That
that's round 1, okay.
So
yeah.
Let's go back. This is that.
Okay, so here's round 2. So you see the yellow girl who got 5%. Well, who was the second choice on all of those ballots? 4 of them went to the golden girl, 1 went to the purple girl. Well, still no majority after round 2. That's okay. Our machines can do round 3. So that's that 20% has to be spread. Well, a second choice from those people who selected the
light purple.
The light purple girl, only 1% went to the golden girl, 19% went to the purple. The winner is the purple girl.
With majority support.
So you see, the people who had voted for the 2 bottom people really said, if my person doesn't get elected, then I really don't want the golden girl, I want the purple girl. So we get an elected person that agrees with what the majority of the voters wanted. It's really important.
So I'm going to bring up civility right now, because this is, I like to say, the unsung hero of ranked choice voting. It changes the dynamic. If you look at the top line, the 2 front-runner candidates, dark purple and our golden girl, they're not going to disparage the bottom 2. There's no incentive to do that. You want those supporters to pick you as their second and third choice. So it changes the dialogue. And again, we have statistics that show you this. It changes your incentives, it eliminates the negative campaigning, and a lot of the dark money that goes into politics these days is spent in negative campaign ads. So it changes that whole dynamic. So it's one of the side benefits. Here's real world.
Yeah, the congressional districts in Maine are state ranked choice voting from now on. But here we have an election, so obviously those who voted for Bond and Hoare have just lost their vote. But under ranked choice voting, going to the second round, they're distributed. 3.1% goes to Poliquin and 5% goes to the Golden Boy.
Gene, is this real-time data, or is this projecting what might happen?
Real time, this
Real-
happens.
Yeah,
Past tense,
Yeah.
2018.
just happened.
Good.
The first statewide implementation of ranked choice
Yeah.
voting, and it changed the outcome.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this was challenged in courts, but upheld. The Democrat is their elected representative to Congress.
Oh, I really like this one. So this is a very recent gubernatorial race in Connecticut. So Bob Stefanowski, old, important Republican, and Ned Lamont, a Democrat, ran against him. Oz Grebo has been a Republican all his life, but you know, I guess he figured he couldn't win, so he went to be an independent, and he came in third. Well, look at there, 49.37% versus 46.21%. Guess where Oz's votes would have gone? To the Republican or the Democrat? Well, if it had been the second choice, I think it would have gone to the Republican, but we didn't have a second choice, so the Democrat won with less than 50% of the people wanting him. This is really nonpartisan. We can show you as many spoiler elections for Democrats as we can for Republicans. And Florida, as you know, is a swing state. 37% Democrat, 35% Republican, 27% no party affiliation at all. That's the Tea Party, the Green Party, the Native Party, you know, all of those things I've been talking about that have really no say. It's still a very red state, and it still has pockets of blue. As you know, I'm in real estate, and I have a lot of people that choose to come to Alachua County because we happen to be a pocket of blue. That can change overnight. Most of Florida tends to be kind of purple. Last three governor races were decided by less than 2%. The outcome of close elections are easily swayed by third-party candidates. Ranked choice voting is what fixes that.
And in each of those past three governor's races, there was a third party that we excluded the data from this, but that third party could have, it took enough votes away that could have changed the results of those elections. So that Florida really is purple, guys. 1.5% is the real number. That was the difference between the last three elections.
So there we are. It allows all the voters to express their preferences. It increases voter turnout. It rewards positive campaigning. You never want to insult the second choice. And it saves the cost of runoff elections. A runoff election in Alachua County costs 89% of what the first election cost. Cynthia,
Yeah.
do you guys know how much an election costs? Susan, what do you think it is?
Well, it varies. I would say roughly, if we want to be conservative, it's anywhere between $150,000 and $250,000 a year.
So,
And you're not talking candidates, you're talking about
I'm
the
talking about
administrators.
the
talking
cost to
about
the
what
city.
the
Run
supervisor
the
election has to
elections.
spend. Yeah, and then of course, we taxpayers pay for it. So then you have a runoff, which comes pretty close to doubling that. So we got a lot of money that we could save by the instant runoff system that ranked choice voting has.
And the implication there from a candidate's perspective, you don't have to run a second race, raise money again, on average $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, whatever it costs to run for office. So play that out.
It took me 70,000 for my runoff.
Yep,
Yep.
that's.
Couldn't have spent
civility.
elsewhere.
Totally.
You know, here's this campaign civility thing. There were still attacks. This is from the very polite city, you know, Minneapolis, Twin Cities. There were still attacks of private animosity between campaigns, but overall it was a remarkably positive campaign. Candidates said that they didn't want to alienate each other's supporters for fear of losing out on second choice votes. At the end of the final debate, they even sang Kamaiwa. So, and there's another city that we have, isn't there?
Let's see.
Oh yeah,
East
East Bay Times. With the new system in place, candidates for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors have been campaigning together, trying to win the goodwill of each other's supporters. What a concept, eh? Okay.
Wait a second, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
remember I said a lot of universities are studying this. Here we have, from this university, we've got a 10-point increase in voter turnout, no change in the general election, no change in the number of errors or overvotes, and no change in inequities in voter turnout or errors in Minnesota. And several states have the same thing. What,
Yeah.
more slides?
So just one point on the 10-point increase in voter turnout. I don't want to mislead anybody. If you combine first round, second round runoff, and total that versus what would in ranked choice voting only one round, you'll see overall a 10-point average in increase in voter participation, which is huge.
So
And
the number of bodies doesn't increase by 10.
correct.
Mhm.
So universities have been using it. There's over 100 universities that use it in this country for student elections, student body, and also in their professor ranks. I know New College outside of Sarasota uses it to determine tenure and other things like that.
Yeah, Santa Fe College uses it as well. A lot of corporate offices,
Correct.
big national corporations use it to select their CEOs, etc. So this is just what we've been talking about. 87% of the voters in Maine, 88% of voters in Santa Fe, 61% of those Santa Fe voters ranked all 5 candidates. So it's easy at the polls. Doesn't confound people at all. And that's one of the questions we get. Well, don't voters have a hard time when they go into the booth? No, they don't. And they like it.
And there's a sample ballot. I passed them out. You know, we all have choices in life. We make choices on everything you do. And why don't we get a choice in politics, or more than one choice? Let me put it that way. So,
This just goes over what I've already said. Let's go on to the next one.
yeah.
So people say, oh gosh, it's hard to change it. There have been 243 years of changing. It's an average of 1 every 6 years. We can change it. You know, as a female who doesn't own property, I know we can change it. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, Maine's the first state. Let's go on. Busy crowd here. New York City, yeah, they voted just recently. 74%.
So it'll be in use for the mayoral election in 2021 or whenever
Yeah.
the next one is.
You know, it's easy
8
for
million.
it's easy for municipalities to go for it. It's a little more cumbersome for counties or large districts, but municipalities can just do it. I like this slide. See the deep purple? For decades, they've been using ranked choice voting for the military because there isn't time to get a runoff ballot shipped overseas and back in time to count it. There has never been an ounce of problems
I don't
with
think anybody
counting
knows that.
ranked choice voting. So it's been tested. You see Maine up there and Massachusetts all ready to go. The gray ones, they're all used in party elections, and the blue for presidential nominations. The purple local elections. It's not new, it's not radical, it's used in a lot of places. Let's go on. 100 years in Australia, 80 in Ireland, the rest of them. Even Papua New Guinea uses it. I mean, duh. Okay, let's go. So we're trying to build a statewide movement, and we do have, excuse me, Ranked Choice Voting Florida is our website, and we've got chapters throughout the state of Florida. We're on our way. Sarasota, God bless them, what, 79% or something voted, the citizens of Sarasota, for their municipal elections to go ranked choice voting. There's a little glitch with the state. John, you can probably explain that better than I.
Yeah, so 2007, this was put on the ballot in Sarasota. I wasn't involved at that time, but I speak to the people that were. 78%, 77.8%, I'd say exact. The two driving forces, you mean we can only have one election. We save our city $100,000 every election cycle for that runoff, and we're going to get almost 12% increase in our voter participation. It was like, yeah, we'll do this. Unfortunately, the voting equipment that we had at the time wasn't technically able to do the tabulation that it required. So it went into our city charter, it's been approved, and as soon as we get voting equipment that can do it, we will then run our first ranked choice election. Well, that day came and passed. 2016, we have new voting equipment, which is capable, but it requires a piece of software called the tabulation module, which exists, but it requires our state to test that tabulation module and put their little seal of approval, which says this works and it's not hacked by the Russians, and and you can do this. So we're appealing to our state. Actually, it's under the Secretary of State. So we went to the Secretary of State in 2018, and we asked them to certify this tabulation module so we can run the election. At the time, our current Secretary of State was a gentleman by the name of Ken Getzner, and he passed it off to his staff, and they came back and said, no, you can't do it. And they gave us a reason that said Florida statutes say that it has to be the plurality winner, which is the one with the first most number of votes after the first round. So we had our city attorney look at that, and he took exception. He said, no, that's not true. It is true for state and for county elections, but municipalities have the right to run their elections the way they want. Now, we've had 5 other attorneys look at our state law and all came to that same conclusion. So, because it was August of 2018, we knew there would be a new governor at the end of 2018 and a new appointed Secretary of State. So we chose to wait, and now we've just gone back. We've hired an attorney to go back and represent us and ask our new Secretary of State to reconsider that position. And right now, that's where we're at. We're waiting to hear back from Laurel Emily, the new Secretary of State. But 5 independent attorneys have looked at our election code and said municipalities not only have the right to do it, it's very clear that, especially home ruled cities, your charters allow you guys to make your own rules, as long as it doesn't violate state law, and no place in state law says you can't do ranked choice voting. So, in a nutshell, that's where we're at. We are optimistic that we're going to be successful. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't act on this either way, because the more cities that say we want to do this, the more power, ultimately we'll have with the state.
John, it's my understanding that some counties are also putting it in their charter in such a way to say, as soon as the issue of counties doing ranked choice voting is resolved with the state of Florida, then our county will do this. I've already talked to Joe Little. He's going to be the vice chair of the county commission, the Charter Review Commission. I've already talked to Penny Wheat. In talking to Penny Wheat, I learned that High Springs had a ranked choice voting election several years ago. I guess they were hand counting it then. Incidentally, our machine we do have the kinds of machines that will take that algorithm, so that's not a problem.
And Jean, that's an interesting point you just made, because That's the way Minneapolis does it. Minneapolis and St. Paul both run these elections, and they're doing it without state approval. So you as a city and Sarasota as a city could do it as well. Instead of using county equipment and using the supervisor of elections, because they are employed by the state, you could run your own elections, and then it's not actually hand counting it, but you use a spreadsheet, and it automatically tabulates it, and then you certify your own elections. So there are other ways.
Yeah, okay, we
We have
gotta
to
wrap it
we
up.
have to wrap it.
And then
Okay.
we can have questions, but if we can just wrap it up so we can.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think we
yeah,
are.
I think so.
Yeah.
So we're
Perfect
just
timing.
really here to ask you to please put it in the City of Gainesville Charter. And that's
That-
all, folks. Thank you very
Anybody
We're
much.
certainly-
Wall?
So
Yes,
the
questions.
tabulation module that Sarasota is waiting on, would we require that same module, or is that already built into our software system? Or, Mr. New, do you know off the top of the head?
What's the question, sir?
About the tabulation model that Sarasota is trying to get permission to use?
I don't know. I know the city of Gainesville has no tabulation equipment of its own. The county
Right.
has equipment that we use.
Right.
And I would,
Do you know what kind of equipment? It's either ES&S, Electronic Systems and Software, or Dominion. Those are the two.
I think we have Dominion here, but
So-
they're capable of the algorithm that is necessary.
Right.
All we would need is.
Without a module?
Right, but all we would need is the Secretary of State to approve.
Oh,
Approve.
okay.
They're still going to require that.
So it's still gonna go up.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right.
and still, there'd be no way to compel the supervisor elections to provide specialized software for the city-only elections.
I'm sorry.
Contract.
I think there's no way, there'd be no way for us to compel the supervisor elections locally to change their software or their tabulating equipment to accommodate the city-only elections. And especially now that the city elections, starting in a couple of years, will be
Coincide.
with the county elections.
Right.
It's, to put it, I mean, we're really talking about the cart before the horse here. I mean, we don't have the road paved, and then we're talking about finding a way to drive the elections with a different vehicle.
Yeah, so our supervisor of elections is willing to conduct a ranked choice voting election once he gets the approval from the state. And like I said, we're hopeful that will happen.
I think here, John, the thing was, we're all going to be on one ballot now.
Right. Oh, that.
But that is just a simple programming thing to keep the city section of the ballot separate. And the algorithm could apply to the city elections. And who knows, all 9 cities in the Emerald Necklace might want to join us. We're going to be talking to all of the other cities. And then it's just a very simple programming item on that algorithm to get the city votes out and
Right.
separated by themselves.
You can conduct a regular election and a ranked choice election on the same ballot, on the same day, on the same equipment.
Right.
Yes, that is capable.
I'm just thinking this through. The city of Gainesville runs its own elections.
No.
No?
Contract with the
Contract with supervisor of elections. Okay. Have you spoken with her? Do we?
Oh, yes, she's very up to date. She would have been here today,
Okay.
except she's just inundated. It's the first day back, but both TD and Kim are otherwise engaged. But she knows this subject well. All supervisors of elections in the state of Florida are very familiar with what's
No,
going
I guess
on.
my question was going to be, does she endorse it?
I don't think it's her position to
Okay.
endorse it.
Okay.
And that's the same position in Sarasota. Ron Turner is our supervisor. He can't advocate for it. He says, if the state says you can do it, I am happy to run that election for you. And the city says they would like to do it. So that's what his position.
Brian?
Does this require a change to the charter? Is there any limitation in our charter on this, or and is it required to change the charter in order to do it, or could this be done simply by a change in an ordinance?
We would very much like to see it in the charter.
Okay.
And it's going in the charter in many cities across Florida, because it's only right to put it in the charter, because then all the citizens can know it and understand it. There's going to be a discussion of this charter review, you can be sure. So I would feel uncomfortable by not having it in the charter. But if I could just tell you one more thing about Sarasota, which I think is interesting. The senator down there, Joe Bruder, is from Sarasota. Well, he was also chair of the Republican Party. He endorsed ranked choice voting. So when I say it's bipartisan big time.
Senator Gruder.
So just going off of Brian's question, do you guys have example languages from other charters that you
Yes.
could send to us?
Oh,
and,
yes.
and are there other mechanisms to get this done other than putting it in the charter?
By
I'm
order.
going to defer to your city attorney on that, but yes, I can send you our charter language, absolutely. And as far as other mechanisms, again, I defer that to your city attorney.
Okay. Just want to go through some steps. How did Sarasota come to utilize or institute their ranking process? Because if I'm hearing you right, for us to do it, I understand you're wanting it in the charter, but for it to happen, the Secretary of State has to approve it overall unless we run our election without any involvement of the supervisor of election. Am I understanding that correctly? If Gainesville ran its own election with no involvement of the supervisor of elections, then we could do the ranked choice voting, right?
Correct.
That's what I'm understanding.
But if the supervisor of
Okay,
elections,
and Sarasota runs their own election?
no.
Okay, so who
We're
runs
not
their
using it.
elections?
No, nobody. It was the county and the state run our elections, so we're not using ranked choice voting now. It's in our charter, and as soon as this.
Oh, it's in your charter, okay, because I thought Sarasota was using it, that's why, okay, it's just in your charter.
It's in our charter.
Okay, well, that clears up, okay, all right. So, now let me ask you this, because one of your themes was that this is highly nonpartisan, but in some of your examples that you used, it inferred that if the third party votes or the lower number or percentage candidates votes had gone or had been able to be counted, basically it would have benefited more so the Democratic candidate. No, that's what I picked up from some of your slides, okay?
Interesting.
And I did pick that up,
Thank you.
all right? But the point the point I'm just getting at
Go ahead.
is that to a degree there is going to be some bias. I mean, just think about it. The legislature and the Secretary of State isn't really jumping on this, because if I've had the last, 2 or 3 Republican voters and the margin has been razor slim, and if we've had the senators from Florida involved in close votes and they're Republicans, why am I, as a Republican governor or Secretary of State, going to institute ranked choice voting when it's not going to benefit my party? I mean, that's just like them going back after we voted to give felons their right to vote, and they went back and changed the law to make it harder for felons to have the right to vote by instituting restitution and all of that, okay? I'm in favor of ranked choice voting, but I just want to put out there for the record, it's not as unbiased as we're making it seem.
You're 100% right. In Florida, certainly it does not behoove the Republican Party to go in this direction.
Correct. And so what I understand that you're wanting to do, though, is get a groundswell
Exactly right.
of grassroots or local buy-in, so we can put the pressure on the state to institute the ranked choice voting. Correct?
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm in
That's
agreement with that.
100%.
'Cause I do-
Just the way felons' rights.
Yeah, 'cause I do like
It didn't
the-
happen from the top.
Yeah,
They-
no, but
they
I
weren't
do like the
embracing it.
premise.
Right.
But I'm just saying, what I want to do is just clarify, voice it, put it out there on the table exactly, not only what we're trying to achieve, but let's highlight the obstacles, and let's not overlook that in everything there is some inherent bias.
Yeah.
So let's not fool ourselves about that, okay? And that's all. Thank you.
Is any,
Well,
all right, let's try to wrap this up because we're.
well, just a
we're
quick
about-
follow-up. And I think that the chart showed that Ross Perot votes would have gone to George Senior. And that would have been an electoral victory for him instead of Clinton. And I think I saw the Connecticut
Right.
result up here would have gone Republican had it been ranked choice.
Right,
Yeah.
And I understand all of that, Walt.
Well, my point is it's
I
not biased.
understood everything.
Well, I don't think you did because it's
But
not
we're in
biased
Florida.
necessarily for Democrats or Republicans. It
No.
all depends on the election.
That was 2 points on their slide that they brought out, okay? But if you look at the majority of the
I
slide,
don't think, well.
it was slanted toward
Okay.
Democratic, that's all.
When Senator Joe understood that the voters in his district favored it, he favored it.
Holly?
I think if there's any bias in this system, the bias is not by party, but by spending power. This undercuts huge spending power, that people are willing to put some choices for candidates who are monetarily weaker, which tends to be independents and progressives. So it weakens the power of rich people to buy an election, I think.
That is a true statement.
Yep.
Yes.
Did you have something, Susan?
I did, but I thought I saw Crystal have her hand up.
Oh, it's just,
Oh, okay, okay, so equally, I think what we're trying to do here is to determine whether or not to ask staff to do, once we get a copy of probably the Sarasota ordinance, as an example, to see if we want to put this in the charter. I think the question of whether or not it would be better put in an ordinance is a valid question. But I think because in our charter Article 2 City Commission, under 2.04 election and terms, that this is what defines how the city of Gainesville runs its elections. This is part of our Constitution. And I think this is if I can continue using that word, a constitutional matter versus something like an ordinance. So I believe that this should be in the charter. And I think despite the obstacles that we know, as Member Henry so eloquently stated, we know that the state legislature has a tendency to not favor anything that makes elections better. But with that said, I don't think that we should not do this. I think that we should move forward and see about putting this under Article 2's 2.04 election and terms.
is that a motion?
I will make a motion on that. I move that we, it's going to be 2 parts. Part 1, that we get from John Severini the Sarasota ordinance.
Charter language.
Thank you. The Sarasota charter language, and submit that to staff and the city attorney. And the second part is that we then move this forward to be part of what we then submit to the city commission for consideration to be put on the November 2020 ballot. Does that cover it?
I'll second.
I was just gonna say, can we, I think y'all can sit down now, I think we're.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
What section?
2.0.
2.04.
So I
So
don't.
we have a motion and a second discussion.
Could I go to discussion?
Yes.
I don't think there's anything in this, in our charter that precludes us from doing an ordinance to do ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting is something that one of the organizations I'm very involved with, Labor Coalition, explored heavily, and we want to do this. Like my constituents really want ranked choice voting. If this is in the charter, that kind of like it's a big deal to be in the charter, as we've been talking about for the last few months. I'm not sure if it's the appropriate place for it. I think that us passing an ordinance would be like the best thing to do.
We don't do that, we don't have the ordinance.
It's
But
not
we
us
can
for us
make
to
that
do, it's
recommendation.
for our
Yes.
for our city commission. I mean,
Recommend it.
we just changed elections to the longer terms. We're, in all these things. I feel like this is a lot, and we're doing another change that could potentially happen when would it happen? If the things line up like this, but it would be the city commission asking kindly and paying for the software to the supervisor of elections office and joining this whole movement. I'm not sure if a charter is the best place for that.
I agree.
I agree.
Um, I feel the difference between ordinance and charter is an ordinance locks it in better. This commission or future commissions can't jump back and forth on a choice just by rescinding an ordinance.
You
No, I'm sorry.
meant-
Yeah.
You mean your charter?
The opposite.
You meant
Oh, I meant
charter.
charter, I meant charter.
I agree.
That's,
Brian?
Yeah, I think to your point, I really like the idea of ranked choice voting, and it's clearly a much better system. I'd be curious from the city attorney or just the legal ramifications of, let's say we move forward with this, it's in our charter, supervisor of elections says, well, now that it's on the August ballot, there's no way to do for the software as it's currently tabulated to do X, Y, and Z. It'll do all these different things. We start having issues with it related to just the implementation. Suddenly it's in our charter, right? So it's, unless we do a charter amendment to revoke it, it leaves us in an odd situation. And so without having the supervisor of elections here to sort of talk that through, I can see that being a complicating factor in all of this.
Yeah.
I tend to be more of an incrementalist, and so I would prefer the ordinance route rather than the charter. I like the idea, I just don't know if I want to make it that permanent for 10 years.
Can we continue this conversation? Can we perhaps invite TJ or the supervisor to come and tell us a little bit more about the implementation side of it?
We can do whatever everybody wants to do, but we're kind of like at the end of the race here, and we're waiting for staff analysis to come back on all these other things. And I mean, I think it sounds like a good idea, but I don't know enough about it. I don't know what the negatives are. I mean, I was sitting here thinking, well, what if you get 1 through 5, and I hate all the other 4, so I'm still only going to vote for 1, or I'm only going to vote for 2. I mean, there's no guarantee. So I think just because you have that opportunity, and especially with the mindset of this current partisan world that we live in, somebody's going to be like, I'm only voting for this guy, and I'm only voting for that gal. They're not going to, I don't think, I mean, I'm sure it works maybe better on a local level, but I just don't know enough about it, and the charter it's a pretty big thing to put in the charter, and with the fact that it could be 10 years, who knows, before we're able to implement it. And I do understand that, grassroots and all that, and this is what we want, but, certainly the city of Gainesville can afford to take on their own elections and buy their own machines and whatever. I mean, I don't know what's all involved, but I mean, I just think there's so many different, I think it's a great overall idea and I support it, but I don't feel putting it in the charter when it's not, like I think Mr. Nee said most appropriately, the road's not even paved and we're trying to drive down it, so.
Madam Chair. Yeah, and I agree with your assessment from this standpoint. To me, as you're saying, even if we put it in the charter, it's really going to be there dormant, because until it gets approved statewide, it's just sitting there in the charter. And to me, this is an action that as it then happens, the city commission can come back and do an ordinance to then implement it as well. Now, what the city commission could do is come up with a resolution supporting it
Yeah.
at this point, and I think that would be the most appropriate action. Talk to the city commission about supporting ranked choice voting, because if we vote to put it in the charter, again, for 10 years, unless the legislature, secretary of state, the governor, whatever acts on it, it's going to be an item in the charter that's just dormant.
Well, as in Sarasota's 2007, it's 13 years later, and it's still sitting in their charter dormant.
is it appropriate for me to respond?
I think it's just kind of between us.
Okay.
Yeah, what I would like to bring up is that we know that there are quite a number of municipalities who have opted to put this in their charter, far more than those who have used an ordinance kind of way to implement it. And like Member Henry said, and I think that this is really important, that if we are going to be roadblocked by the state, the Secretary of State, I would rather have this already in our charter so that when things do happen, it's done, and we can just start to implement it. Now, the question about, well, can our supervisor of elections handle this? I would like to propose, and I'm gonna probably get really unpopular right now, that perhaps we hold a special meeting before the end of this month in order for us to stay on our schedule. Have a special meeting just on this where Kim Barton and/or TJ Pache can be here to talk specifically about these things, because, you know, I certainly don't want to do something that forces their hand and mucks things up, you know, so to speak. But if they say, you know, yeah, we can do this, we just, you know, need to make sure that the Secretary of State's not going to come down on us about it.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor, so before, more discussion on that, before we decide on that, I think we need to see what the vote would be.
Oh, I'm sorry, do you have something?
No, I was just.
Just two more things to add on this is, one on that is, I wonder how many of these were passed by charter versus ordinance, because.
No, because we have that list.
No, I wonder if the reason that it was done because of charter, not ordinance, is because that's the only way for citizen ballot initiatives to happen, which is my point the last meeting that we had last year. But also, this is something I've been thinking about a lot and lost a little bit of sleep about, is this is going to be a monster ballot, and we're going to have really hard, make really hard decisions that we're going to have to get rid of some of our babies to make the ballot not ridiculously long. And that's going to be a really hard calling process that we're going to do. And that's, months down the line when we're going to be like, well.
Not very long.
Huh?
Not very long down the line.
Well, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Once the staff analysis comes back, and I think this is one of the ones where I would like it, but if it was between this and pretty much anything else that we have, I would not choose this one.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I have other favorite ones myself, and
Yeah.
this is one of my favorites.
Okay, so are we ready to vote? All in favor of sending it to staff for analysis based on her motion regarding putting ranked choice voting in the charter? Say aye.
I
Well, I'll say
might need to
aye.
do a hand count.
All right, let's do a hand count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ayes, and then nay. 1, 2, 3 nays.
4 days.
4 nays. Sorry.
You didn't count yourself.
Always read myself.
So that obviates the need to talk about an additional meeting
Right.
between now and then.
I still think it would be good to hear, I still want to hear from the supervisor.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
I mean,
suggesting, is
I mean,
if we can do a special meeting before the end of the month where.
And that's fine. I just kind of wish we would have, kind of
Gotten to it earlier.
earlier.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, we all,
we're-
we all do, but
Yeah.
that's not what happened.
Yeah. Okay, well then,
Do I need to move that we schedule another meeting before the end of the month in order to keep, okay, so I move that we contact the supervisor of elections and see whether Kim Barton or TJ Pache can be here on a particular day, and then we schedule that meeting to hear just about ranked choice voting and how it impacts it.
just to be clear, I'm gone the 15th through the end of the following week.
And I have a
It'll be
question.
the last week in January.
Yeah, we'll have to, maybe the clerk can do like a doodle calendar for us.
What a ranked choice.
Yeah. I think we have the technology.
Well, or we could just do it on February the 3rd.
I think
I think we could do it on the February 3rd
At a
meeting.
regular
Okay,
meeting.
okay.
Yeah. So
All right,
let's
I
just
withdraw my
keep it-
motion then.
But
Okay.
we would still need to, hang on, Brian. We would still need to contact them to see if they're available on that date and time, right?
I mean, as you mentioned, we're kind of running down on time here. So I was going to recommend looking at whether or not we should have another meeting between now and February, period, just to make sure that we get through all of this before we send everything to staff analysis, much less to take up an entire meeting in February for only, we've already spent done almost all of this meeting on this
Okay, when we
issue.
get to the work plan, I think that'll be clear, because
Okay.
right now, we're done with the charter. I mean, we're waiting to do staff analysis now, and we'll get to that when we talk about the work plan.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
I'm thinking that I would like to hear the supervisor of elections speak on it also. And as far as setting the time, maybe we should ask the supervisor of elections for 3 possible dates in late January, then do the poll among us on those 3.
But I think if they can make it on February 3rd, then we don't have to do all these new polls. Let's see if they can make it on a regularly scheduled date. Jesse Irby was able to, so,
Yeah, what we can do is make it time certain and hear
Right.
them make a
Be
decision.
on the top of the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that work with everybody for now? All right, so moving on. We're on the work plan review. So I think everybody received the original email from Nicole Shalley. And the one that we have here, dated December 31st, with Mayor Posley mug on it, it seems to have been updated a little because I emailed her when I looked at what we had for this meeting. I knew we would be done with going through the charter. And so, I mean, you know, the February 3rd meeting, and I don't know what the potential, you know, Dan, do you know of having at least some analysis back? I mean, these are the things that, again, on the work plan status, you know, it's listed all the things that are for staff analysis. Some things will be for GRU, some things will be for general government. And I know that according to Ms. Shalley's email, somewhere in here.
I'm just looking for it, Bella. Maybe on my computer at home.
Right.
I printed out a thing here that was, it said the work plan here.
That's what
Right.
it is, it's back.
Yes.
But
It's the same thing that Poe.
Thank you
well,
all.
no, thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Well, the one that was originally sent out back on the 31st, or that I printed out on the 31st, it starts out with by the end of February 2020, CRC complete review of the charter and agree upon final proposed amendments. By the end of February 20, charter officers provide final written analysis to CRC. So I sent, this is the newer one, I sent to her an email saying, hey, looking at what we've done and what we have left to do, we're going to be done by today, other than, you know, this ranked vote issue. So y'all need to, we don't want to wait till the end of February. We got a meeting February 3rd.
Right.
So, I mean, I think right now we're going to wait on staff analysis. So what do you think? Would that be able to be had by our February 3rd meeting?
My understanding is the charters met, if not today, recently, and talked about taking an approach towards responding to these items. It's part of the reason we put together this list.
Right.
And I'm not sure if they'll be, I think most of them will have input from all the charter officers, honestly, not just one or
Sure.
the other. And I don't know if they'll be on the same page or not, and that's part of the different perspectives. But I understand they recognize the urgency of getting back as soon as possible. In addition to that, it's been made clear, I think, from the commission that they want, before you send anything on to the commission, they want it to be fully completed, meaning ordinance drafted, ballot language, the whole 9 yards, which if you're talking 10 or more, it's a tremendous amount of work. I mean, it can be done, it just takes more time.
Right.
And that's not something I think that was clear until recently, because if they intend to beat those, if they're not send something forward, then that's work that's done for naught. But in any event, that's what they want, that's what they get.
But I think too, if we get just the analysis part before we do the language and all of that, if we can get that analysis and give us some information to either go like, oh yeah, I didn't think about whatever, and then we can narrow it down or stick to what we have, but at least have that analysis.
Yeah. And to be fair, a lot of these things are things that they're not going to have necessarily say on, whether or not, you know,
Right.
term limits are extended to 3. I don't know that any particular charter officer
Right.
has a dog in that fight, you know.
Right.
But I think that they're going to try to Larson might know better than I, or Mr. Tillman, I think they're going to try to go through an analysis where they will sort of look at like what's the problem or the concern that's raised, what might be the unintended consequences of this type of action, and what the fiscal impact might be,
Right.
things like that. And I don't know how long it will take them to get that back, but I'm pretty fairly confident you give them a deadline, it's going to be met.
It's our intent to meet as the 6 charters and to come up with one report that we can submit to you by February 3rd.
Perfect.
That's our intent, whether we get there or not.
Right. But I mean, even if we get if we get half of, if we get, so, yeah.
So I have a concern too, because I was talking to members of the County Charter Commission, and they had Kim Barton come and speak to them about what they need, what the language they need, and they need to know how long the ordinance is and how much space they are and how many ordinance they are. They need to know this so they can start ordering the ballots. And I think they need to start knowing that, from my understanding, not by July, by June.
That's what I remember.
I think that's what prompted this
That's why.
updated timeline, working
Yeah.
with the clerk's office and.
But-
trying
But I
to
think
get
it's
you
still
that-
But it's-
even late.
But it's still even late for that, the ordinance. The timeline, it says by July 3rd, clerk to deliver adopted ordinance to supervisor elections. They need it by June 9th.
I think they included the slightly older version of this.
Oh, okay.
That is in there. I think the one that the chair is referring to was that date.
It still
but-
says
Still
July
July
3rd.
3rd.
That said July 3rd. She
Well,
up,
the mayor's, I don't see July 3rd on the mayor's communication.
Very bottom.
Yeah, but-
Oh,
On the
down
very
there, sorry,
bottom,
I'm
yeah.
looking at June.
Well-
Okay, yep.
So I mean, whatever it is, I just want to make sure that we're
In line.
we're in line
Yeah,
with.
the supervisor of elections needs to know the basic, how many ballot questions and how much space they're gonna take up by no later than June 15th, so that they can get the ballot in order, even if
By
slight
June
changes are made
15th?
to the language after that point.
Okay. 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 So
Holly,
as long as they
wait.
okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Holly,
Thank you,
One
Marie.
one government has an additional step, and I'm trying to remember which it is. I think it's the city commission that gets to look at our stuff and decide which ones to put on, and the county has to pass them all on. So it's really the other way around.
Bear in mind, the ballot language is going to be the same number of words capped for each of them. So even though one idea for a charter amendment might have an ordinance that's many, many pages long, because it affects various sections and so forth, that's not gonna change length of time, space on the ballot.
Right.
So when there's an idea coming out from you guys to go to the city commission, there ought to be a good idea of how much space it's gonna take. Because the space isn't gonna vary that much between different ballot initiatives.
Got you. So what we really need to know is if it's going to be 9 or 10 or 12. That's okay.
I think we have 10 currently.
And it might be if it goes to the next page, then you have, several.
Yeah.
Right. Currently, I think we have 10 recommendations, and some of them, like you said, are no-brainers. They're not that complicated. Some of it, like your shall, must, may, should have, would have, could have.
Right, but just
You know, so there's a couple that are just, I don't think are gonna be any issue, but something like the ranked choice voting, that would be a lot more complicated.
And we may find those
So-
orders not as important as we thought they would.
So at the February 3rd meeting, if we can get a significant amount of the staff analysis back, and then we'll invite the supervisor of elections and/or staff designee to present at 4 times certain, and then we can have the staff analysis after that. And then again, you'll talk to February about the March, because so Marie has provided 3 dates in April we have 3 public hearings. They're Wednesdays, and these are the ones that the commission chamber is open.
They're just tentative dates that.
But she wants to try to lock in. I mean, I'm okay with Wednesdays. But I don't. Again, we're going to be like. And at the public hearing, is the commission going to conduct that, or we're conducting it, or we're jointly conducting it, or how will that work? We'll just be there for.
We'll take a look back at the ordinance.
There'll have to be a presentation of the item.
Yeah.
While he's looking for that, the second Wednesday is out for me.
The 13th, is it?
The 15th.
15th.
Oh, 15th. It's the week
No,
of.
no, I'm sorry, it would be the 8th. The 8th would be out.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
there's gonna be 3 public hearings all on the same
Yeah.
thing. I don't think it's, somebody can't make one, it's not gonna be, we haven't had, I don't think, a full.
Madam Chair, sorry, if you're talking about, the provision here is CCRC, this body shall hold at least 3 public hearings that are a minimum of 7 calendar days apart on any proposed charter amendment. So that's hearings held by this body before it goes to the commission. Now, they used to be a week apart, so the 3 meetings can be held over a 2-week and a day period, if we schedule the time in advance.
Well, I'm fine with the 8th and the 15th and the 22nd.
15th was my birthday. I just wanted everyone to be aware.
Well, the 15th is my husband's birthday.
Tax
We'll
day.
make
Tax
space
day.
for 5. We'll make space
Reserve
for
the
5.
okay.
Yeah, I'll remember to make you something.
The 8th is Passover. Does that matter to anyone?
It will survive.
Uh-huh. The 8th is Passover. It begins. So do you want to look at 1/15/22?
April the 1st, is what you're saying?
Yeah. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Wednesdays in April.
Did we say Tuesdays? We can't do Tuesdays.
I
I
thought she
can't
said
do
Wednesdays. I thought she
Oh,
said
These
Wednesdays.
are Wednesdays.
No, I'm saying we can't. Well, then, well,
Can I propose
Just pass
the 6th, regular Monday meeting, have a hearing on?
Well, I think it has to do with Marie finding if the chambers are available.
Available.
These are the 3 days that they had the chambers available. And again, these are gonna be 3 of the same public hearings. It's not gonna be different stuff at different meetings, so.
Well, the public, members of the public, different people may come and take different
Sure.
issues.
Oh, yeah.
They can make the
Oh, yeah. No, but I'm just saying as far. So the 1st is what? Wednesday?
Wednesday, the
Is everybody,
15th.
Actually, that's fine, I mean, that's fine.
Marie, do you know if it would be available on the 1st?
I can move it
I have a question. Cause I guess I'm lost and I'm looking at this and I see this schedule here proposing, okay, the week of April 6th, okay. And you all are saying April 1st?
Because the week of April 6th, April 8th is the date that they had available, and that's Passover. You don't really-
Passover begins.
Usually,
Okay.
we'll avoid those kind of holidays.
Yeah.
Which one do you think? Is
Miss Brittany.
But, okay, so we're really going by just this one, because these are kind of proposed by Ms. Shalley, and again, the one that we got, the one we got today is different, so bear
I
that in
think
mind.
I've just been.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the one that I printed off from the,
That one's the older one, this one has newer
it?
dates.
Okay, I think she's trying to say something.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Ramirez just pointed out that the provision related to the location had to do with the underlying ordinance.
Well, that was for the ordinance.
It's got the same
that created
information.
This
It's the
policy.
same thing.
No, it's not. What?
The provision in the ordinance, I think that specified the meetings being held in the auditorium were for the ordinance that created the referendum, that created this mechanism of amending the charter, created the CCRC. The meetings, 3 meetings that you were held on proposed charter amendments, it doesn't specify, they have to be public meetings, obviously, and available to the public. It doesn't specify the location.
So we can find out if this space is available or if there are other spaces.
Do we want to try to stick to Mondays? Then, if we don't have to worry about,
I mean, some Mondays don't work for me. The second Monday won't work for me.
I think,
As long as people can be.
so,
Oh,
okay, so why don't we do this? Why doesn't Marie get when's available here, give us some dates, you send them out and do a doodle poll or something and see, you know, what works for everybody. Because we have to have the availability of the room, the space.
Yeah. It might be good to mix up the day of the week, just in case there's members of the public that always have to do something on a certain
Yeah.
day, so.
yeah,
maybe
so do one on a
2
Monday, one
Mondays,
on a Wednesday, one on a,
Tuesday or Thursday.
one on a Tuesday, one on a Wednesday.
No, Tuesday.
Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, right.
Sounds
mix
great.
it up.
When you're available, but maybe mix
Okay.
it up for
Yeah.
members.
All right, you got that,
solve a
Marie?
lot
All
of problems.
Yeah.
right, I think that sounds good. Would it be, you know, we've got, do they have to be 3-hour meetings? I mean,
No,
5
not
minutes?
It's kind of
An
long.
arbitrary.
Yeah, they can be shorter if we
Okay.
finish our work. So.
Yeah.
And if we have to extend it, then we have to extend it.
All right, so let's, at the next meeting, we'll get some,
Yeah.
you can do 6 to 8 or 5 to 7 or
Yeah.
4 to 6.
6 to 8 to give people
Yeah,
time to get
after
from
work.
work. Yeah.
Okay. And it'll be daylight savings time again.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay.
Okay, so, I'm sorry. Mr. Mooney, did you see the blue one versus the one?
These
Yes,
are the
they have-
same. They're the exact same. Because I printed this off from the agenda. This is the exact same information.
Right, but the one that had Mayor Poe's picture on
Yeah,
it.
just this, but it's still the same information.
Well, it says by January 31st, 2020, and mine says by end of February 2020.
Mine doesn't.
Oh, so this one was from the email, but I think that one was updated on.
Yeah, this
on
was
the
from
back.
the agenda.
Okay, gotcha.
That's what I was telling you.
Well, mine was one from the agenda, which I printed. Well, it doesn't matter.
I said, no, it doesn't, but I was letting you know that I
Okay.
had the same information.
Gotcha.
That's all.
It was the original email. I
Yeah.
apologize. All right, so anything else for the good of the order? Holly?
Early on in the process, I asked you guys to read Color of Law and to look at the website of GARE. And there was a purpose to that, not just to add to your reading list. At our February meeting, I'm going to present some language about racial equity. And I've been this long trying to do it because I was just really struggling to figure out where it could fit, where it's appropriate to possibly fit in the charter. And I'm thinking that item 1A, adding number 22, is the only likely place for it. But I just want to let you know that's coming. So, so to add to your, to heavy up your agenda on February 3rd.
What section do you think?
Section 1, number 21 of under special powers, yeah. No.
1.04.
Oh, sorry, got it, okay.
Yeah, and it goes through 21,
Right.
Yeah.
so it would be after number 21. Okay. You got that, Marie, you put on the agenda as well? Okay. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.